It does say we're live.
Aw, I wanted it to be a surprise.
And yet, it wasn't.
Aw.
Well, welcome to the Dresden Files podcast.
We have a new toy.
We have a new toy. What are we doing? We're on Zoom. We got a makeshift green screen behind director.
Yeah, so
No,
if
it's
things
totally painted.
are weird, it's probably because I'm playing with things and I don't know the program yet, but it's kind of cool. Also, it's expensive, so give us money.
Yes. Yeah, we with Google Hangouts Live kicking the bucket, we're looking at other alternatives, except they all cost money. So you can always go to our fine links.
Because Benjamin, you do not have a video, just so you know. People have no idea on the video stream, like, who's talking, because there's no indication I can see.
None whatsoever.
None.
Well, I am a ghost then. I guess I should get to the previous podcast episode. So we also have affiliate links in the description. Drive-Through RPG does, in fact, have some Dresden Files RPG content, and Dresden Files Accelerated, a fine, enjoyable adaptation of the setting. And also plenty of other stuff. That'll be in the links below. We also have our Patreon, not to
rub it in your face or anything.
Rub it in your face, but, we're because we have to go off of Google Hangouts, we are looking for a little bit of cash flow. That's pretty much it. We'll head on to our Cold Days discussion, unless there's any... Is there any news?
I think like a day or two after we did Ghost Stories, when they announced that Peace Talks is finally actually done.
Oh,
Yay!
yes.
That's a little important, but, who's counting?
The end.
It's been long enough, but optimistically I say Christmas, but realistically I say my birthday. So
I'm hoping for
I think
my
they're
birthday.
gonna try pretty hard for Christmas because, more money.
And how optimistic are we talking here? What month is that?
November 29th.
Yeah, that's pretty optimistic.
I'm going to hope.
I was going to say, I might as well just wait for Christmas then.
Well, they've done so. What we're basing this off of, right, is like the one that Jim and everybody, like even the publisher, hated was a 3-month turnaround, right? And then realistically, it's usually around 6 to 9 months. So I'm like, well, optimistically, let's put it in the 6 months then. And then
I'm hoping that due to the rabid fans, the publisher kind of steps on the gas and just gets everything out the door as fast as possible.
Yeah, but if you rush a miracle, you get lousy miracles. So I'm totally...
The miracle's already done. The book's already written.
Yeah, but then they got to pull out a couple of million copies out of, the Never Never. And
I was going to say, otherwise everything we're going to be talking about Seattle, Oregon again.
I mean, we really just need one copy delivered to James Masters. And that's all. Like, that's it.
That's true.
I disagree. Some of us
and
don't
then
listen
we
to
can
those
get that Audible affiliate link, and everyone has to sign up for Audible, and then we get money.
Yeah.
I like this idea.
Also, if you have any spare change, we might set up a post box. It's just like put it in the envelope and send it our way.
Yeah, I will spend any money I receive on tacos. So please instead use the affiliate link or the Patreon link. I love tacos.
I don't think our monetization can support your taco habit.
Nobody's monetization can support my taco habit. Well, okay, so
we
let's
can't
go
send
ahead.
it to Scandinavia because the euro's too much.
Got any of that Crunchwrap Supreme, man?
Okay, I think it's time to
Cold Days.
do my job and direct something in Bags to Cold Days.
That would be nice.
Which is the woohoo.
yeah.
Playing with my toy, sorry. Okay, start it off, Justin, because I said so.
Harry's dead. The end. Oh, wait.
That was the last book.
Well, yeah, but he still kind of starts out, mostly dead, and then it gets better. And I'm going to slip in as many of these freaking Princess Bride references as possible.
Good.
Especially early in. But anyway, so, I mean, the opening line is great because it's like being mostly dead is really hard on a guy. But basically, he wakes up. Sarissa is there, who he discovers. She feeds him. Mab comes in, is very tender and sweet, and then tries to murder him with a pillow. Well, or mostly succeeds, right? Like, he's eventually able to throw her off, and then that's the beginning of his 77 days of attempted murders. So basically 11 weeks worth of intensive physical therapy with Sarissa as his nurse, and then Mab as his physical therapist. by doing everything from, the classics, right? Putting snakes in your bed, bees. I don't remember all of them,
gigantic spiders,
right?
Shotgun to the face.
Yeah, one of the last ones was the shotguns that he deflected without a focus, stuff like that, which the book kind of, I felt like, glosses over until like much, much later he brings it up again when he's like, somebody gets the jump on him and he's like, yeah, except Mab's been doing that for freaking ever. So you guys aren't even a challenge. But at one point, Mab, tells him, good, very good. Get some rest. I'll most likely kill you on the morrow. And he's like, you, a Princess Bride quote? And she's like, what's that? So starts out with the classics, just going from there. Oh yeah, so the shotgun scene. There was a Malk with her that basically got the drop on him as well, and
right. We can't forget that this montage of 77 attempted murders has to be to Walk by the Foo Fighters. And why walk? Because he couldn't walk.
Right. Yeah. So. He gets out of it and whatever, and then he graduates basically like on well, it's not Halloween yet, but it's like a couple of days or a day before his birthday. And then basically introductions are made between him and Cat Sith, who is his Batman, not the titular character. And then it's like, I forget what Harry says, but, Cat Sith's response is, I prefer to think of it as managing your incompetence, so he's Dresden's level of witty and he's evil and, it's pretty good. So, but basically, Cat Sith is there to kind of help Harry integrate into Winter and then kind of do things for him. He was given orders by Mab to follow Harry's orders, and he gives Harry the same kind of sass that Harry gives Mab, which I think is good too, because Cat Sith basically, like, he makes it a point to do what Harry said he would do at the end of Ghost Story, which is like, if you give me an order directly, I will just follow that order, and you're going to have to fucking micromanage every damn thing that I do. And that's basically what he's going to get out of Cat Sith, which I thought was a great sense of irony for him.
Why he gets a warm Coke.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Warm Coke. Who would do that?
How did you open it? You don't even have thumbs.
Right.
Oh, Cat Sith.
Yeah, he's such a great character. So basically, so you've got Sarissa and Cat Sith get him ready for a party. They get him all...
The exchange was like, tonight is a celebration of birth. And Harry goes, whose? And Cat Sith, you cannot possibly be that stupid. Right.
Yeah, right. Such a great line. But it's like, he doesn't know what fucking year it is, let alone what day or month or anything. So, yeah. They get them all dressed up and whatever, and the whole like, whose birthday is it? And take him to this party, and it's a winter party, of course. So there's going to be all sorts of shenanigans. But basically, going in, they let them know that there's two laws because it's Mab's court, right? So no blood can be shed without Mab's express command, and no one may speak to Mab without her express command. Which Harry's not really good at either of those things, especially with like a court full of monsters. So, why not? I'm just surprised there's only the two things. Like everybody makes a big deal about Mab's accords, but they're probably like 4 pages back to front maybe, and just be like, Mab will fuck you up is the bottom line. So anyway, so they walk him into this big empty room, and then Cat Sith does what Cat Sith does, and he disappears. So Sarissa and Dresden, being the vanilla mortals more or less, start to panic a little bit, and then you hear a bunch of trolls and other monsters and creepy things out of the darkness yell, "Surprise!" as Dresden almost starts blasting people because, he's just spent the last 77 days getting jumped by Mab and friends. So Sarissa freaks out and is like, no bloodshed, and barely avoids letting Harry be Harry for a minute. So it's pretty good times. Let's see. He runs into the Earl King and Santa Claus.
Don't forget Maeve and her first attempted murder. Okay,
I was gonna get to her for sure because I had Darth Barbie in here, which is another good zing.
Don't forget Vajazzle.
Right.
That one.
Yes, she's vajazzled, and I don't remember all the details other than like the red cap stuff. Like, was there something else she tries before
The surprise thing is like she tries to get him to attack.
Okay, so that's her idea, and then
he
the vajazzling.
Yeah, she tries to throw glamour at him to get him to go away with her instead of staying at the party, and he turns her down, and she gets pissy, and then the red cap stuff.
He does, but he doesn't just turn her down, right? Doesn't he make a reference to like it's my birthday or not? It's not my the wedding.
Yes.
The werewolf wedding. So it's like you fucking
borrowed.
tried to murder my friends. Like I'm not leaving the party with you.
Mm-hmm.
So she does that. And he calls her Darth Barbie among other things. And then, she sulks off. He links up with Eldest Gruff, Darth Santa Claus for some reason. We're just going to go with that now. So Darth Santa Claus and the Earl King. And basically gets a little bit of, like even Santa Claus needs to cut loose every now and again. So he goes hunting with the Earl King at times. And it's great because Eldest Gruff is the one that introduces him, right? Because he's the prior acquaintance. And so, but the Earl King's obviously met him, but this is the first time he's actually met Santa Claus. So you get some of that. I forget who it is. One of the three realizes that Sarissa's no longer with them.
Eldest Gruff points his knife. Harry sees it. Eldest Gruff points his ears,
right.
And then the Earl King's like, I can't abide poachers or something.
Right.
Nice.
Nice.
Gruff is fun.
Yes.
Oh yeah, he's such a great character.
Yeah, the little line about his fingernails were hoofy always stands out to me.
So
and it's when he's making introduction because the Earl King's like, know you these children. He was talking about Sarissa and Harry because they're just babies to them.
There was the one little hint of things that get revealed later of Eldest Gruff asking, "Does he know about your?" And Sarissa interrupts him with it hasn't come up, and then Harry doesn't ask about it, even though he makes a point of asking her questions.
Right.
Well, because that would just be too much info too soon.
And Harry's kind of dumb, so yeah, which is also a theme of this book. So, anyway, so basically, she's been grabbed by a fairy who turns out to be the Red Cap. Who, if you're not familiar with the folklore, basically he jumps and ambushes travelers and then dips his cap in their blood. Red Cap. So. He's there with some of his cronies and stuff, and they basically get ready to, they're going to fight. Harry's trying to talk his way out of it and be diplomatic, but it's not really going so well. And then eventually Sarissa, she's got chopsticks in her hair, breaks one that has some steel in it and stabs, the big brute that's got her. It slams her, and basically she bleeds. And then, we've now spilled blood in Mab's presence. Dude broke the rules. So
not only does it she spilled blood and it's like a faux pas, but literally, because it's against Mab's will, the ice cracks. It's pretty obvious that blood has been spilled. Right.
So there's this.
Mab does this weird teleporting, color turning, menacing figure of herself.
Whenever she's in black, she's there as the judge or executioner or however it is, right?
Yeah, that's
he
something
says
that he
that
says
in the next book. Whenever she shows
game.
in black, somebody dies.
Right.
Yet, nobody died there.
The rawhead died.
Yeah.
Or the ogre, rather.
Well, yeah.
Rawhead.
You said they said in the next book, right?
Because I think it's.
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, he was just. Because, he calls it her aspect of judgment. So when they have that powwow with Marcone and her, and he lays out all the stuff that he found out about them, because she's judging how he did on his mission, I guess.
Yeah, and what they orchestrated in Skin Game leading to Deidre's death and things like that.
So yeah, you could say someone died in that respect, but that's just the comment he makes because the last time he saw her is at the end of this book.
Yeah,
when there's plenty of death.
So since Harry's the knight and he's responsible for executing Mab's will, I was gonna roll that differently, but it fits in this case. So she basically gives him leave, and he freezes and breaks the ogre, right? So then he follows it up with, all right, you primitive screwheads, listen up, which is a great Army of Darkness reference. But he kind of finishes it off that, he covers the basics, like, I'm Harry Dresden. You guys are all fuck faces. No one gets to hurt mortals in my presence. I'm not going to pretend to try and change you or anything like that. But while I'm around, they're off limits. And then he finishes it off with zero warnings, zero excuses, sub-zero tolerance. And so one of the she pipes up from like the crowd, and he's like, what makes you think? And then Harry just is like, and Frigga Fazzari. He's like, I'm very glad that you asked that. So I hope my answer has clarified any misunderstandings.
Anyone else?
Right. It's just such a great, like, ruthless moment, especially like from Harry. It's a little bit surprising, even considering like some of the other stuff going on. But then also like it fits right into what you would expect for the Winter Court. And Mab is totally cool with it, is the best part. Like every time Harry just goes all the way to the hilt, either, intelligently or ruthlessly or anything like that, Mab just kind of gives him this what's up nod or something else to just demonstrate how impressed she is, which is always kind of fun. So.
I mean, she wants him ruthless, right? So she's
right.
She outright says it this time. She says it was well done, and that's when she drops that little tidbit about Tamlin.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, no one's handled them that way since the days of Tamlin. Yeah, so then she gets all pissed off at Maeve and tells her to go wait at Arctis Minora, which I'm kind of curious about the name and if there's any significance there. But
I guess it would just be Arctis Minor, right?
Yeah, the
that makes
little
sense.
Stronghold or whatever she's got.
Yeah, but I mean, Tor is tower, right? So we got Arctis Tor and then Arctis Minor. Okay.
Yeah, for like the minor queen. I don't know, makes sense to me.
Okay, sure. I follow that. Yeah, so she tells Maeve off because they were operating under Maeve's orders, obviously. So Maeve's
and he deliberately exposed her during the proceedings. He didn't just go under the farce of working with the Red Cap. He said, "Why am I talking to you? This is the real person I need to be dealing with," and brought her into it.
Right. So at the end, basically, Mab dances with Harry and then gets all close and cuddly as you would with an icicle, an iceberg. And then she says, "Wizard, kill my daughter. Kill Maeve." Bum, bum, bum. So, yeah, that's dramatic and, spoilery and stuff. So
it's an easy task. I'm sure he'll have no problem.
Mm-hmm.
I think
nice and simple and direct.
One of the things that I think is interesting about that is that it follows Harry being perfectly aware of Maeve's own ambition and kind of loathing and hatred and her competition with the mother, which I think Maeve later on tries to play off as Mab being sick, Mab needing help. She must be stopped. Kill Mab, right? She tries to redirect it, but we've already seen in the untested moment that Maeve is the sick one. And then we're told by Mab, Harry is told by Mab, you have to kill her. So it's set up and paid off almost immediately. And most of the book is Harry trying to realize what he already has seen.
Well, she admits as much later on. She's like, I have no illusions. I want the throne.
Right.
And then he has that talk later with Mother Summer even about weighing the cost-benefit analysis of which one he's going to kill, because theoretically. Because he gets shown the gates and imagine the world with Maeve in charge.
Right.
They talk about.
Yeah, like it's kind of an interesting argument from Mother Summer, because it's like, okay, let's say that Maeve's right. Do you really want her to be right? And it's like, well, obviously not. But I mean, if Mab were legitimately crazy, or as we find out later, like if she were the one that was infected, you still don't want her in the seat, So it's like, what are you going to do? You're going to off both of them? Like if she had literally been the one infected, then there's no way around it. Like you were going to have to take care of that, and Maeve is going to be there anyway. But yeah,
well, I think that's when he realized also, because after that fact, we don't really find out. He doesn't actually say it outright until the end when they're on the island, where he's like, "I'm pretty sure there's 2 fairy queens up there." But I think at that moment he kind of has that a little more clarification, because if Mab was insane, there would be no reason for the defense of the gates to be working as they were.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, good point. I like it. All right. So
continuing at this point, in our little recap of an entire book,
right.
he leaves the party with Sarissa, and Kat gets her for him and whatever. And they go to his rooms and they do this back and forth answering questions of each other.
Right. Yep. Yeah. So they basically go back and forth. She reveals that she's Mab's her humanity Sherpa, and
BFF.
right. They go to movies and festivals and just whatever else and just hang out. They go to concerts and whatnot. So. And that she works mostly weekends, and then with the exception of Harry's thing, and says something like she's going to get like a year and a half off or something like that to make up. She
just says months and months, but because the agreement is she spends 1/3 of every, or 3 months out of every year, that was it, with Mab or doing something for her. So she spends 3 months or just about with Harry taking care of him, and there she gets all rest of the 9 months of that year off.
Gotcha.
And that she also says that as well, breaks when she was in school, so it equals out to about the same.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, they go back and forth. I don't remember any other reveals. I didn't note anything. So,
some of it.
Well, she talks about Maeve having a form of congenital dementia.
Obviously, not saying names. She just says, "I saw what happened to my older sister, and for as long as I remain myself," she has that bargain with Mab. Some of the questions that she asked Harry seem kind of like what happened in Death Masks, of like, why are you doing what you do? That's a really important thing to know, because she's asking like, why have you ever killed someone, or who is it that's important to you? And the first thing he thinks of is Karen Murphy.
Mm-hmm. Right. But because she's Winter too, right? Like a lot of this could be some behind the scenes stuff with which he doesn't even consider until much later in the book, right? But like Sarissa is all nice and sweet and all of this stuff on the surface, but she still survived her entire life ish in Winter. So she's got to be cunning, like we saw at the party, or ruthless, or both. She knew that when she stabbed that ogre, like, she had to have known that there was very high likelihood of bloodshed, being the outcome. So she's still got that cunning, ruthless streak just as much as everything else.
Well, plus she brought cold iron into friggin' Arctis Tor.
Right. So. Right. Because she's cunning and ruthless, had to make sure she had the right weapon.
And the main thing that she's going for in the conversation that she has with Harry, and a couple of them, is wondering if he's going to do the Lloyd Slate thing to her.
Right.
And also, I believe she knows that Harry's tasked with killing someone. And so she actually asks him, "Is it me?" Or he says, "It's not you," whatever it was.
Gotcha.
Yeah, she deliberately asks.
Right. Yeah, so I'm pretty sure, like, do they get to sleep, or does the job go, like, immediately?
No, it's immediate. Okay. He summons Cat Sith.
In your closet?
Yeah, that leads right back to Chicago.
Yeah. The portal in his closet. So the only way in and out of Faerie for the next 24 hours is in his freaking closet. What? Do you mean Winter? No, I mean Faerie. Like all of it, basically has most of the Never Never, at least the close parts, on lockdown. Like that's a nice little tidbit where it's like, I want to see what the White Council did about that shit. Where they're like, what do you mean the Never Never's busy? Like, you go open a portal and you get this dial tone or something and just be like, what do you mean you can't open a way? Like, nobody can open a way for 24 hours? Like, somebody fucking noticed.
I guess it's the difference between Faerie and the Never Never. The Faerie is the part that's closest to the human realm, right? But it's not all of Never Never.
You don't think he passed through Faerie when he got jumped by the giant spiders on his way to Edinburgh?
No, he did. He's explicitly did.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. Right. But
they used the waves because that was the deal they made.
Yeah, I mean, it could probably still open a way to like Hades' vault.
Sure.
Yeah. So it's, it technically.
But that's like, but that's like shutting down all the major freeways and be like, yeah, you could technically get around, whatever. And it's like, yeah, but mostly it's going to be a huge pain in the ass for, the world, at least the magical community. So, let's see. some out of context notes that I'm reading through. But anyway, so he basically, when he lands, so to speak, figuratively, they've got the Munster mobile. He finds out that Leah's
the Munster mobile that was being driven by Toot Toot and the Zagard, whatever.
Right, the Zalord's
Who's
guard.
driving that? And Captain says, I suggest it be you.
Right. Yeah.
Side note for the next book, I'm so sad we didn't see the Monster Mobile again.
Right. I know it is kind of weird. Like we've got these 2 books so far where he hasn't quite set up roots yet, right? So like there's all of this shift where we're kind of used to his gear evolving with him, over the course of the series, and now it's just like, I mean, he's not getting the Blue Beetle back, so he's got to have some kind of wheels. Like
I thought this was going to be it.
Right.
We'll see. I think kind of the next book that we're getting soon, TM, will have more roots. That's the impression I got.
I'm sure. I mean, and we'll kind of see. Like he's supposed to be staying at Molly's apartment and everything like that. But which
I think, like for all intents and purposes, is his apartment. Like I don't think.
Well, as far as she's concerned, maybe. But yeah.
Well, did they say? And again, I never read the first chapter all the way through, but I think it starts. He's talking with Thomas on the beach.
Yeah, and it takes place only.
Got back to the apartment after he's done talking with him and Ramirez.
No, it ends on the beach.
And then we just have the apartment.
Yeah, we just know from things that Jim has said that he's staying in Molly's apartment, kind of like he was in Jury Duty, and
in Zudex, they said that's where he was.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine if the whole thing is for lack of a better term, it seems like Peace Talks is probably going to end up being a bottle episode book where a lot of it's going to take place during the Accords in wherever they're being held. So I don't know that we're going to have a lot of transportation ability either.
That's a fair point. And I mean, we might be on the other side of where that's a problem, right? Like, because this is more the spooky side of the street for what Harry's dealing with. But the quote comes to mind from Grave Peril where it's like, look, Michael, the Lord doesn't arrange for me to be anywhere. I need wheels, so. But he's basically bantering with Toot Toot, and Toot Toot leaves him with the little nugget that, again, is going to come up multiple times in the book, which is, you're barely human at all, and it's like, yeah, that probably shouldn't have sent shivers down my spine, but, he gets...
Barely human at all!
Right.
He he sounds so happy about it.
Right. Well, but Toot Toot's happy about everything, right? Like when he becomes the winter emissary, it's like, we're winter now, and just like always, it's like, we're running around murdering people now. Yay! And
except he doesn't seem to be happy about being big.
Yeah.
Well,
he tries to launder himself and hold weights down and everything, but he keeps getting bigger.
Right. Because with great power becomes great responsibility, I'm sure.
And he seems to equate being big with being human.
Could be.
He does that a couple of times. Like, maybe you're just too big to understand winter law or something.
The she is also more human than Toot Toot is, right? And they're not that human, but they're more human than him in their personalities. In their relationships.
They're still ogres and stuff, though, right?
Right.
They're still
That's
like gnarly beasts that are bigger. So I don't think size is connected to humanness.
No, but in his head, what I mean is, like, if he keeps growing in power and keeps getting bigger, from what I understood, he would essentially become a she.
Well, yeah. If you go
I see what you mean. Yes.
Whole origins of them, the she were created, and probably out of what the fairies used to be, so on and so forth.
Right.
So yes, that's what a lot of people seem to think he's going to end up as. Is kind of like his own version of a she lord.
Right. Yeah, the level 20 Toot Toot, he finally gets to be a big person. So
gets to be, doesn't really wants to be.
Right. So from picking up the car, basically his first stop is to kick in Butter's door and go steal Bob, and get roughed up by Andy and vice versa. So
I would say reappropriate. Steal is such a loaded word.
Steal's appropriate because he wanted it to be like reported like a burglar, so that Butters and Andy weren't considered to be a part of it, right? So he kind of explains his reasoning. Again, this is Harry kind of being stupid, and from like an external point of view, right? Like everybody knows that he's working for Winter now, and so everybody's just waiting for him to turn into Slate. even though he's barely been on the job, 3 months now, let's count the physical therapy, whatever. This is his first real job. And everyone's like, oh my God, he's a murder hobo. And it's like, or I've been awake for 24 hours and I'm just getting shit done, But Andy basically attacks him like full out wolf, gets a gun, just the whole everything. But Harry breaks a couple of her ribs because he's got super strength now. And, he kind of explains the whole, like, he's the one, he's breaking into it so that they have like plausible deniability that they weren't helping him. In case Maeve's people came after them,
which they inevitably do and don't care whatsoever.
Right.
That works out well
because it's winter. They're not going to think about it too much. Like he's trying to set up all this stuff, right? And they're just like, whatever. You once knew him. Like they'd go after his fucking mechanic if they thought
it's funny. You would think winter being supposed to be the cold, calculated one, they would think about this more. But like Maeve, I mean, granted, look who's leading them. But Maeve and her entire retinue are just like reactionary, stupid
right?
people.
And that really struck me this read through, and maybe some of that is like, so thinking about this, right? So we know she's infected. How many of the rest of them are? And I would assume more than one, just because they also get the drop on Cat Sith and get him infected later. Spoilers, So it's just like. It's very likely, though I think the Red Cat's just stupid, right? He's not cunning per se. He's just an ambush predator.
Well, he thinks he's cunning.
So, yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, and you kind of get that from the She at the end as well, in my opinion. Like they are completely waiting to see what Lily and Maeve are doing before they respond. Whereas like Fix and Dresden and everybody else has some initiative, so.
Yeah, well, the Knights would theoretically.
Right. Well, at least that's what Mab wants, which is why she didn't like beat up on Dresden when he lipped off to her and said that he was going to do things his ways. Like that's exactly what she wants. She's just going to do everything she can to make sure that your way is her way. But she's not.
Well, theoretically, Fix would too. I mean, because at least based on what we know about Ronald Rule, I mean, he was able to take his own initiative. He even took all them in, and they were winter changelings and stuff. So,
right.
They're mortals. They get to do a little more.
Since you bring up Maeve and her retinue, one of the details that really informs a reread of Cold Days for me regarding that is in Cold Case, Molly talking about Maeve shirking her duties, which is kind of just what that story is basically about, right? But
right.
I think part of what plays into not realizing that the ladies actually have their own specific duties is that whenever we run into the winter or summer ladies, there's no real clear purpose for them to exist other than as vessels of power who sometimes work closely with the respective knights. I don't really even have a strong idea of what the summer ladies' duties are, even after thinking about this question and thinking about it. So I wonder, and that's the Cold Case could be a little bit of a little bit of retcon to kind of deepen the story, but it really gets at just how separated from her duties and how separated from reality Maeve is in the context of Cold Days and earlier.
We're not really shown until we only know very little of any of the Queen's responsibilities. We know a little bit of what Molly has to do now because of that short story. We know kind of what Mab's responsibility is, but there's probably way more than just that. And we really don't know what the mothers do, if anything, other than Mother Summer safeguarding very dangerous diseases.
They guard the cottage.
And time for them.
And they meddle like mofos, man. Come on. So
we don't know what their purpose, like their actual mission statement is.
Well, I mean, if you take Summer has always been described as the counter. So Titania is literally Mab's 1-for-1 equal. So if Mab ever does go dark side, they kill each other basically and restore the balance. My guess is the Summer Lady is probably a check in the same way, but they work more closely together. One, because they're the quote unquote weakest of the queens, so they'll be able to be in reality on Earth without screwing everything up more than Mab and the mothers and Titania would, because they can't stay for but so long.
Yeah.
And two, she would probably check, Winter's worst impulses, where, the cold and calculating version of the lady might see, okay, we can decimate this city and end the threat, and the summer lady will be like, well, maybe we can figure out something a little different here.
In even before Cold Case and even after Cold Case, I think the strongest simple visualization or understanding what the ladies are for is in that they are apprentice to the queen, and they're to help kind of go up the rungs of power. If something happens to Mother Summer or Mother Winter, then the queens get boosted up, and so do the ladies. So to have somebody prepared for this as a vessel while actually having some amount of Summer Winter power and Summer Winter duties is, I think, kind of the
sure. There's no. I mean, that would be the case. No whether they had more explicit roles or not, I would think.
Would it always be a lady that becomes a queen?
Yeah.
What if there was?
It's linear movement.
What if there was a prepared vessel closer that's also prepared for Winter?
They would become the lady then.
I would imagine it would be if it will always be, no matter where, like how close the lady is to the mother, the queen when it happens. Then I would imagine that the new Mab would temporarily hold both mantles and then give.
Well, I mean, they say that at the end of this book. Molly, if Faerie killed her, Molly would have gotten that mantle, but then that mantle would have superseded it, and they would have had to find a new lady. Obviously, I mean, Mab says as much at the end. You've handed her enough problems without handing her my mantle too.
Yes,
I mean, that's what it is. The lady gets the. It's not quite like the knight snaps back to whichever is the closest representation of the queen to it, like by actual physical proximity. But the queen ones are a little, it's like lady goes to prepared vessel, and then upward.
Right. Well, and I mean, that kind of comes down to the most prepared, right? So if you've got a mortal prepared vessel for lady, and you've got the lady prepared, obviously, for the queen, it's just going to go from the lady to the queen. She'll be promoted to the queen, and then obviously the new vessel would be the mortal. The other thing is, I believe there's a word of Jim talking about how mantles fill cups, metaphysically speaking, and so you can't have two mantles at the same time. Usually, I never understood the analogy entirely, because it seems like there are some shenanigans, but it made a little bit more sense this read through. So,
well, I think it's because that one was talking about Harry and the potential of him getting something like the Winter Lady mantle to become the Winter Lord. And,
right.
Since he was kind of not prepared, so his vessel theoretically wouldn't have been ready to accept it.
Right.
It would.
The reason why I feel like the explanation did never make sense is because Slate was technically, he had both mantles, didn't he? Or because they put the mantle on Lily first, didn't they? And then
that was a summer night mantle.
Yes, but what I was saying is that there was two mantles in play, right? That I thought Slate at one point had both, but
no,
they've given it to Lily instead. Yeah, so
right. He thought he was going to get it. That's what Aurora was telling him. You'll get power and you'll become. But we know also from word of Jim that he basically would have imploded because those two mantles don't mix.
Right. It was just the right kind of lie for a person like Lloyd Slate. So.
Right.
Maybe, I mean, to add some more nuance, Lloyd Slate, maybe the reason he wanted the Summer Knight's mantle was that he wanted to get rid of the Winter Knight's impulses, but he couldn't live without a mantle because his body was, fucked up from being Winter Knight.
Maybe.
Well, I mean, she indicates that he's going to get both. So he just seems to want to be free of Winter's control, but he also wants power.
Now I want to read that again because
maybe he wants to be free of those impulses that Winter gives him, like Harry gets those impulses.
No, more precisely, he probably wants to be free of Maeve, because Maeve is keeping him drugged up and manipulated.
He was a thug like that before he was the Winter Knight.
That doesn't mean he wants to get played.
Doesn't mean a character can't.
Sure, no. Like I think he wants to get free of Maeve or Mab and that type of control that's over him, but the impulses don't seem to be as much of a problem for him because it seems like he was that kind of person before he even took the mantle.
Right. He wants to be his own villain, not their villain. So,
here's a quote. It's Slate gave me a cold smile. That old bastard rules power. For one thing, I'll be twice the knight I was before, and then I'm going to settle some accounts with that little bitch Maeve.
Yeah, so who told him that now is my question, because if a fairy told him that, they should know how the mantles work, which means that was a lie, right?
Someone like Lily can easily mislead.
Well, I was going to say Aurora at the time, almost
Aurora,
certain.
that one.
Probably lie.
But she wasn't infected, right?
She was.
Wasn't infected.
Okay.
That
All
That
right.
doesn't
why
mean
she
she
went crazy.
necessarily was lying. That's a little squiffy still as to whether or not infection lets all Fae lie, or if that's just because the way they made it sound.
Yeah.
The way it's described in this book is that's what, it did for Maeve, because that's essentially what she wanted.
I think whenever someone was acting against their nature, like directly against, that means they have to be like Aurora.
It was Aurora it was Aurora going against the balance. It was Leah going against Mab and her station. It was Maeve being able to lie. It sort of preys on your, for lack of a better word, I guess, your greatest desire, it seems.
Interesting.
Or your greatest weakness, if you want to call it that.
All right. So we got 15 minutes, right? So we're going to finish out the book in the next 15 minutes. Listen closely. I'm going to go fast. No, I'm just kidding. So Harry kicks in the apartment door. They have their shindig. He gets away with Bob, gets away mostly because Andy lets him. Bob and Harry talk. We find out finally, like, they make a reference to this all the way back in either Grave Peril or Summer Night.
It's mentioned a couple of times that Bob is scared of Mab and hiding from her.
Right. So we finally find out that it's because Bob knows how to kill an immortal, which is kind of important because Harry doesn't know how he's going to kill an immortal that he's just been told to kill like 15 minutes ago. And basically it all comes down to mantles get a little shifty on Halloween, and that's the whole point of Halloween, and why the costumes are, incorporated and everything like that is because, so it's the classic, like, we're hiding kids from, supernatural creatures and whatnot. And it's because Halloween's a masquerade, because the reason why immortals can be killed is that their mantles can pick up new energy, which I would imagine if you introduce the right kind of new energy, like a kinetic weapon to the forehead, then, the vessel dies and then the mantle moves on and whatever. But they can subtly trade power, get more powerful, or eat children to get more powerful.
If mantle can absorb energy, like on Halloween, would a winter knight take a summer knight's mantle on Halloween specifically and take the power?
They'll explode.
But if it's like, that's why they kill each other on Halloween, because they can take each other's power.
So
they call it. They take little bits, he says, mostly. It's not usually a big blowout where somebody is like absorbing a dark hollow.
And think of the Wild Hunt. It's not like Kringle is trying to take Anti-Kringle's mantle. He's just trying to gain more power of the things in the area, more predators,
oh my God,
more of what he is.
They're necromongers. They keep what they kill anyway.
Yes, basically.
Yeah.
Maybe being a Starborn has something to do with being born on Halloween.
Isn't that one of the bigger
Possibly,
stories?
but if Elaine's a candidate, then it really, because she's a few months before or after him.
I thought Jim said that she was only a few days off of him.
And maybe that's why she's almost.
I mean, it seems to me that Starborn is related to being born around Halloween.
Would you say that it had something to do with the alignment of the stars, aka when they were born?
Yeah.
Well, it's described as a confluence of energies and events, so I think it's more than just being born on Halloween.
That has to be one of the things.
Well, it might be, but again, Elaine wasn't born on Halloween, so.
Right. All right, so after they're talking and everything like that, I'm pretty sure the duffel bag bomb falls out of the sky at this point, and then the little people attack while they're having their conversation. So basically, like, the bomb falls out, but it turns out that the car has been reinforced and armored, which yay fairies for paying attention to details like that. And they back out.
He's a competent lackey.
Batman.
Yes, he's a competent Batman. Like all Batmen should be competent. Anyway, so it's kind of funny that Harry gets attacked by the little folk because that's his favorite tactic, and they actually use that against him a couple of times in this book. So
there were nails exploding and fish hooks, and he was at the point of like, I am not using my death curse on little fairies.
Right. Yeah, and then he's not even supposed to be here today, and all of that. And then the cats save him from the little folk.
The fake cats.
Yes, but it's Molly. So she knows where to find him because reasons, and she tells him that the little folk are easily startled, but will soon be back and in greater numbers. So they skedaddle. And then they go to Molly's apartment, and you get a little touch of, what happens in Bombshells with the whole she bought the place with honor, which is just a great wizard explanation for I'm not going to tell you right now, because Molly's totally becoming a full-fledged wizard, whether they like it or not. So she lets Harry know that she's been going to Demon Reach, which is all sorts of disturbing and crazy. So I'm kind of curious, I don't think it's ever mentioned what she was doing there, right? Just that she was going. So I'm sure Leah has something to do with it.
Yeah. What I imagine is once Leah gave the slip that Harry was alive, and maybe might want to check out that island because something weird might happen to it, or just trying to get things set up for Harry, a lot like the spare bedroom and all the extra clothes and things.
Right.
Just making sure that things are right. Also, if Molly's a sensitive, who knows how far back the first weird things of whatever the attack going on the island might have alerted her.
The temporal wave, yeah, because I forget Molly's the one that tells him that the island's going to explode, and take out most of the Midwest and whatever. Yeah. So.
Betterung does say that it has to happen pretty much close to the actual event, which is why it's growing only the past couple of days. But I mean, she doesn't specify how long she's been going there.
Right. And I think that was part of my confusion too, because it's there's only a 3-month window where he wasn't present, So
no, it's longer than that. It's just 3 months that he was in rehab because he was deadish and stuff for a while longer.
When does Ghost Story? Well, yeah, because Ghost Story takes place in December, right, or thereabouts.
No, Ghost Story takes place in May.
Okay,
yeah. And then May to October.
6 months, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, with 3 months of rehab because the other 3 months of comatose.
Right. Gotcha. Okay. So I don't remember anything else going on. I mean, Molly's still got a torch like the fucking Statue of Liberty for Harry. She's got a room set up for him, even though it's her apartment. She's got all these clothes for him and stuff that he gets changed into. And then they go to the
water beetle.
Yeah.
And they startle Thomas awake, and he tries to beat the shit out of Harry because he's mad that someone is impersonating his brother.
This reminds me so much of the last time Harry went to the boat without saying anything to Thomas.
Mm-hmm. Right. There's no way Harry would be here with a woman instead of his dog. There's no way Harry would be here because he's dead, because my brother would have told me.
Right. It's such a great thing because I feel like as he's saying the words, the realization starts to creep in that maybe it really is. And so he starts digging back like a brother. He's just no, because if he was alive, he would have fucking called me. So, yeah. Let's see. And then so that they find out that the reason why Thomas is there and sleeping on the boat is because, quote unquote, Molly called him to tell him they were coming, even though she's like, no, I didn't. They're all like, well, that's just weird shit, but we don't have time to worry about that right now. So
it's Mab being helpful in her own way.
Right. And then after Thomas beats up on him, he sends him halfway into the Lake Michigan, if I remember right. He blasts him.
Remembering a moment of way back when they were building the pier in the first place.
That's right. Yeah, because he's because I had to, because he's my brother. So. Yeah. All right.
Next up is the island and all its secrets and stuff.
Right. Yeah. Wait, I don't rate a machine gun? No, you don't, because you can't shoot. So, yeah. Yeah, so, they go to the island. Harry finally looks at the wards. He's been to the island how many times, and only now he's looking. And part of it's Bob, for all fairness, but Bob's finding out that there's, millions of wards on each rock, and, that it's...
Which is impossible.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of that going around, so,
But somebody doesn't care.
Yeah, exactly. Like when Bob tells you it's impossible, like it should be. So I'm kind of excited, hoping that we're going to get a little bit more of Merlin's shenanigans later, and maybe find out some of this. But I mean, we know obviously from the explanation later that when he talks to Demon Reach, you find out it's been built in 4 dimensions and a few other things. But still, like even some of those explanations, it's like, but you can only put so much energy into so many objects, type of stuff. So. Yeah, they find out that the well is under attack, or soon will be, and that's why it's going to explode.
Yeah, after they do the kind of abrupt pulling the rug under Harry thing of like, this is a Negloshi in crystal,
right?
And the whole place has
minimum security.
Yes,
right.
Minimum security,
yeah.
And everything else is worse, and there's tons of them.
And
also, someone's throwing a rock tomorrow, but you're feeling it today.
Right. Yeah, so I mean, there's so many more details, right? So like Merlin built Demon Reach, we kind of know that. There's 6 Negloshi in those crystals, rating quote unquote minimum security. There's 1 to 2 miles of tunnel of more crystals, with everything ranging up to house and building size. And there's 12 identical hallways.
Yeah, 12, but doesn't it change to 13 later?
I think there's 12 other hallways, including the one they're in, so 13, right? It's like, holy crap. But that's basically what he said, is like 12 other identical hallways, if I remember right. So, because 13's the magic number. And 13's probably as many as he could make, because magic, right? Because that's the whole...
Well, actually, it is the magic number, but he actually just says 12. He doesn't say 12 others.
Yeah, I thought he was just kind of like a small chamber type thing, and then there's 12 hallways coming off of it.
Yeah, he says, because why is one hallway with like dark nightmares isn't good enough. I had 12.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there you go. So,
but in Skin Game, I thought it turns to 13. We'll find out.
Right.
It might have when he's running through them. I don't remember exactly. Yeah, because he's 11 more of them, because one infinite tunnel full of horrors obviously wasn't enough. I had 12.
I got you. There you go. Yeah.
I mean, I just
issue like Seattle, Oregon. I'm just gonna say.
I just love that whole interaction with Bob, going from really scared to really cheeky, because he needs him now.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So, while they're in there, Harry starts getting a headache, right? And then Demon Reach growls, and the headache goes away, and he's like, what the hell is that? And it was the parasite. And the parasite bargained with Demon Reach not to be told. Not to tell Harry about it, basically, which is like super fucking weird, because in hindsight, right, it's Bonnie, and that, like, all of these other details, but at the time you're just like, what the fuck is in his head and all this other stuff. But it's almost weirder now knowing, because it's like, why did she bargain to not be known? Because she gets out anyway.
You can never predict with Harry how he's going to react to things, and he's had, especially when he finds out what that bean is made out of, she might not. And honestly, I think she was probably a little too inexperienced to do the bargaining. I'm pretty sure his id was doing it on her.
Well, why would his id not tell him? Because it takes every opportunity to beat him over the head with obvious truths.
Well, because, I mean, like it says in the next book, they can't talk a lot because he ignores him. So why would he want to risk that Harry's going to do something rash to a thing in his head that he doesn't fully understand without getting a chance to converse with him about it?
And I see what you're saying, but at the same time, like, I don't buy it, especially because we know how it works out, right? With the whole, like, he just needed Molly to take it out of his head. And that's all that happened. And then he immediately put her in the backup skull that he had made for Bob.
Which I guess it's true that he didn't have a backup yet, but if he knew what was there, then he would have made one.
Right. Like, I mean, we could go with that. It would have been.
You remember in the next book how people were describing the parasite. Who was his id and Bonnie going to trust to describe her correctly in a way that's not going to get her killed?
I'll raise this one more meta level where I think it'll make sense. I don't think it was the id or Bonnie came up with the idea that Harry might do something. I think Mab told her that
that's entirely possible too.
Harry wants you out and he's got no place to put you, which means you'll die. So you should do this. And then Bonnie negotiated.
That's fine too. And it forces his hand later to do what she needs.
Right. Exactly. Because that sounds way more plausible. But yeah, when Harry's like, okay, wait, what's this parasite thing? And then Demon Reach says, ask Grasshopper, which I find very fucking weird too, because how does he know that's Molly's nickname? And Like, I know they've been there and whatever, but
like it's the connection between Demon Reach and Harry is like, this is what Molly is. She is the apprentice. She is the fun grasshopper.
So the fucker can't tell Harry it's gonna explode, but it can say things like "ask grasshopper," you know, like.
Well, that's
Like,
directly
he can't-
tied to the health and well-being of its warden, so he might have a little flexibility there.
Right. Yeah, I find it very weird because they have huge problems communicating, like psychically demolishes Dresden, spiritually annihilates him, and then comes up with Ask Grasshopper, which is like 3 levels of, I don't know. Anyway, so I thought...
Well, if we go by your theory that Mab's the one who did the bargaining, then she told him.
Right.
No.
Only Molly can fix it, but specifically called her Grasshopper. Because it's not just that he knows Molly, right? It's that he knows her nickname. That was the part that...
Well, he
like,
might have gotten to say... I mean, she did say she was going out there. We just had that discussion. She might have gotten...
That's true.
A better sense of what she is.
Right.
In the past few days.
Yeah. I always kind of took it like, I don't know, just that Demon Rage accepted that this is what Molly is and that she's going to stay that way, essentially. The connection between them is that form, and it's not going to change much, at least according to Demon Rage.
Right. All right. So we got a couple of minutes, so let's at least try and wrap up what we've got here. So basically, once they go down their 12 flights of 12 stairs, they sprint all the way back up, and then they have movie time. So basically, this is where Demon Reach is dumbing it down to Bob, and then Bob's got to figure out a way to dumb it down to Harry, and it took throwing a rock at the island before Harry finally got at it. You see what I'm working with?
What I'm working with here?
But first he casts Alicinus.
Right, yeah. And Harry tries to interrupt a couple of times, and he says, shush, or you'll go to the special hell. And Harry's like, wait a minute, I'm not supposed to not get the references. So, yeah. Okay, I've got a random tidbit in here for the spell thing, right? So because after this they get like sunrise is coming and they have to flee, right? So it begs the question, where is Mab physically locking Faerie down from that Harry has until sunrise? Sunrise Australia time, or obviously sunrise Chicago time, but how does she tie that in there?
She can't get to Chicago until sunrise because she gets domain over night and Faerie. So once sunrise comes, then she has to relinquish it, but she can block them off from getting to Chicago. Right?
I mean, I guess, but Faerie was locked down for 24 hours, which includes at least 12 hours of daylight.
Right. I mean, so there's that too, obviously, right? Because that's a little bit of an interesting tidbit. But yeah, the whole like sunrise is coming, and it's like technically from a metaphysical perspective, it's always sunrise somewhere. Like that's what I'm saying. Like, so just one of those things where I was like, I'm a poke this because it's here.
Yeah.
Maybe
well, that's like kind of the connection between the like time and place are kind of the same thing if you look at it right.
I mean, but not to Mab, right? Like she's locking Faerie down from inside. So what is sunrise to her in the mortal world? That's what I'm saying, right? Because we're taking it from Mab's perspective. Like she's on the outside, she's looking in, she can see.
I'm sure she still knows. I mean, even if it's not of consequence to her in her everyday life, she can like be like, yeah, sunrise in Chicago. I'm aware of what that is and when it will come.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, Fix
shows up. Got to be a limiting factor to her, at least a little bit, because she's a queen of air and darkness, and like it.
Yeah, but it's half of the world has got the sun on it. So if she locked down all of Faerie,
it's a natural process. Just because her elements are, air and darkness doesn't mean she doesn't understand what sunrise means and the implications of it.
No, I know, but we're getting away from the fact that she locked down all of Faerie. Right. But I like the idea that it was only to Chicago, but that doesn't necessarily equate to what they said, right? Like,
Well, plus, that wouldn't really help because, I mean, what if you just teleport outside of Chicago limits and you just, I mean, how long is it going to take a ferry to get to inner Chicago? Like an hour?
It depends. Right. Like if she shut down the whole Midwest, perhaps, until sunrise, then it would take them a couple of hours to get there. Maybe that would get to sunrise or whatever.
I think the part where I'm going to let it slide for the making sense in Chicago is because the portal was touching Chicago, right? So one end of the portal being in the mortal realm, being in Chicago, versus the rest of it being in lockdown Faerie. Then
and Sith says not 24 hours. He says all of Faerie is on lockdown until dawn.
I thought there was like, they start out by saying 24 hours though, or something.
But no.
Okay.
Sith says until dawn, so that it still makes sense.
Gotcha. Anything else we want to cover? Because that's pretty much time.
Nah, let's break here. Part 1 of 5.
Yeah, we made it like 3 chapters in. So
Wonderful.
Do the plugging.
Well, thank you for listening to the Dresden Files podcast. We just covered like Cold
5
Days.
chapters or something.
Yeah, 3 chapters of Cold Days. We'll go on to part 2 next time. Thank you for tuning in. We have a bunch of other podcasts as part of the Broken Jars Network. We have, well, Andreas, let's have you plug your own podcast first.
We have DMs Anonymous, where we talk about all things role-playing games as from a Dungeon Master's perspective.
Yeah, what did you cover last week? What do you cover next time?
We covered character creation, and we're not sure about the topic for next time.
Oh, well, we'll look forward to it anyway. We have also Great Scott about The Office. That's coming up. Finally, they've had pretty much an episode on every episode so far, almost. They're coming up to the end of the show in the last couple seasons. Look pretty exciting. We also have High Fantasy on hiatus. We also have Sim Talk, which is a completely professional production about professional simulations in the professional environment, brought to you by the Professional Broken Jars Network. Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, yeah, and don't forget to click down in the description below for Patreon links and drive-through RPG stuff. You can get Dresden Files, RPG supplements, and other RPG stuff for the DMs Anonymous. I think that's it.
Yep.
Is that it? Did I cover everything? Okay.
Very professional.
So
we said the words. We're ending the podcast now.